Today we are going to be talking about race cars, Lego race cars, and real race cars. So let's get into it. Before I get into the Lego race cars, we're going to talk about the real race cars. I hope to put this video out before the 24 Hours of Daytona, but I just got too busy. If you missed it, this was the field going into the 24 Hours of Daytona. Sanctioned by IMSA, but it features a lot of cars from the WEC, which used to be called Group C and other things. It's Le Mans style racing, except they also do it in the US, and the series here is called IMSA. IMSA.com. This is my heartfelt plug. If you're at all interested in racing, you have got to be watching IMSA. The race this past weekend was fantastic. 24 hours nonstop, round the clock, round this racetrack, and they turn left and they turn right because there's a road course built into Daytona International Speedway in the infield. Now, I can't tell you enough how much I loved it. You have everything from naturally aspirated Cadillac V8s, which look and sound phenomenal, all the way through 4 different classes of racing, the 4 different speeds that they do, passing each other, mixing it up. It's incredible. This is one of the most popular cars in one of the GTD classes. It's known as Rexy. There's also another dinosaur car named Spike from the same team, AO Racing. It's fantastic. I love it. It's actually my wallpaper on this phone right now. And I was so excited about this race when it started. And it just, all night long, they just race around the clock, swapping drivers, swapping everything. And in the end, it came down to just a few seconds between the first few cars. And it's just an amazing event. Porsche won this time. They won it last year, so it's amazing to have the same driver, or some of the same drivers, but the same car repeat in a race that's this wild. It was nothing short of wild. Ford has won, coming back onto the podium after a very long absence, and those also looked and sound fantastic. They have a glowing horse on the side, a Mustang on the side of the racing Mustang. You can't see it in this picture, but at night it just looks spectacular. And then, of course, there's a lot to be said about the BMW Corvette battle that was happening. If you look elsewhere on this channel, you'll find I did a little thing about that, and the Corvette driver was not happy about being held up by team orders between the 2 BMWs. And that became, that's a big story coming out of the 24 Hours of Daytona. So that is my plug for you to get into sports car racing in the United States. Every year for the past few years, my son and I have been going to Watkins Glen, New York for the 6-hour endurance race that's up there. It's a fabulous weekend. In IMSA, they let you walk the paddock. You can walk down pit lane. You can walk into the cars around where they're fixing the cars. You can get very close to the drivers, very close to the mechanics. It's really an extremely immersive experience. Sit anywhere you want in the track, walk around during the race. It's amazing. It really is a fabulous thing, and they do this at other tracks all across the country. So the next race is going to be Sebring, which will be a 12-hour race, and that'll be running day into night, or is it night into day? I can't remember now. Well, anyway, it'll be in March. So you have a number of weeks, 6 weeks or so, to get caught up on the teams, look at the spotters guides, figure out where your coverage is. It's typically on Peacock. Sometimes NBC will carry parts of these longer races in the United States. And it's absolutely fantastic racing. It really is very, very good. All right, and of course, this is a Formula One car. This is nothing like what they race at Daytona or in IMSA, but I wanted to give you a preview. This video will not be about this car because before I talk about this car, which is an old legit Lego set, I want to build this car, and we'll do a comparison between the two. But first I have to build it. It's still sealed in the box. Thank you to my family for getting me Ayrton Senna's McLaren. I watched a lot of Formula One cars Formula One racing when I was growing up, and Ayrton Senna was one of my favorite drivers because he was just nuts, especially in the rain. Just amazing what he could do. He unfortunately died very young in a race car, but Lego put out this tribute set, and it is a fantastic, and I have some modifications coming for that courtesy of a friend of mine that will make it even better. So it will be a while yet until we can compare how they used to do it to how they currently do it. So for this video, we're going to be talking about sports car racing, Le Mans style cars primarily. None of these cars are Lego. There is one of these that has sort of a Lego contemporary. It's the same model car, but I don't have the Lego one here. My son actually has it, but he's 2 states away at the moment, so I can't show it to you. But we'll be talking about these cars kind of in their historic order, beginning with the 917, which I have here, and I will show you more of. Oh, a piece just fell off. And we'll talk about that too. Whoops, it fell on the floor. So first I want to point out that none of these come with paper instructions, but what they come with is a link to a PDF. Now this might vary depending on who you buy it from. I won't send links or include links because I just can't. There's so many variables as to what's available when. But when you do get them, what you'll notice is that the instructions are very much done in the Lego style, and they include where the decals go and things like that. And I find them very easy to follow. There was, in the case of the Jaguar, and I think in the case of the 956, some questions about colors sometimes because they were a little bit off. And if I can find it, I will give you another example. So you'll see on the Ferrari, that is black, not yellow. So sometimes there's weird little things like that. But otherwise, these are very easy to follow. You could print them out if you really needed to. But let me talk about each individual one and we'll get into it. Here it is, the legendary and sturdy. Oh my gosh. We're gonna have to talk about this. Here it is, the legendary Porsche 917K. The K stands for Kurz, which means short tail. There's a long tail version called, well, the LH, which is for long heck. It raced in Le Mans in 1970 and won the race, and then set up a dominating era in modern sports car racing. And really, you can see the current cars trace their lineage back to this one. Now we're going to talk about the actual Lego here. Well, okay, again, these aren't Lego. These were all purchased from AliExpress, and they run about $15 each. So I think that's a pretty good price for what you get. This one is kind of fragile. So first let's pick it up, and I'm going to show you that this isn't really something you would play with necessarily, but it does capture the look of the 917 well. There's that very low front with the giant headlights, and then the cockpit. Of course, the well-known weird mustard-colored top of the engine there, and then the back, we're a little droopy here, kind of has that gantry sort of look, which isn't nearly as closed in as in modern cars. And I've kind of knocked these out a little bit. What's interesting about this particular construction, and well, all of these really, is that they use a lot of really clever building techniques. And that is probably the reason why I find these the most interesting, is because they're not just thrown together sets. They really have a lot of thought into how they're put together. Now that said, this was the first one I built, and it came out the worst. So I learned a lot along the way. We'll just pop off some of these pieces. They're pretty loose, and you can kind of see, it's real interesting how they go together, right? And we'll pull that off. And then here is, I should show you the cockpit area. Nicely done, with a seat in there. Now this particular one didn't come with a minifig. In fact, none of the ones I have came with minifigs, but I will show you that on the sticker sheets, they came with stickers, they're included. So if you had a generic or an extra minifigure, you could use the stickers that came to create the appropriate uniform for the drivers. Now I'll show you the biggest mistake on this one. It's pretty easy to spot. I did not realize when I put this on that this was not cut out, the window. I should have cut it out so that you would get a better look. And I didn't notice that, unfortunately. Each of these came with 2 sticker sheets, and I didn't notice this issue until the second one. This is actually the second try to get this on because it's so hard. There's no landmarks, so lining these up so that they're centered on a curved piece is very tricky. And on the first car I botched it, or on the first sticker on the first car I botched it. I redid the sticker, and then I was like, oh wait, no, I forgot to cut out the window. So I recommend that you get a very, very sharp knife, a razor of some kind to do that. But I think there were only 2 of them that were like that. This was one of them. So I'm tempted to buy another one of these in a different livery, knowing that I can get a second sticker. Anyway, so we've looked at that, and I'm going to pull off the side here so you can see how that's attached. And again, you can kind of strip this down. That came off differently, but they're obviously the same assembly. But just so you can kind of see how they go. I mean, it sort of has that air duct in the nose, although on this car, it's of course a sticker that makes that effect there. This is showing you the Martini colors. With all of these cars, the way that I assembled them was to first put them together and then go back and do the stickers with like an alcohol wipe on the parts. But it does kind of have that tub look like a race car would have. So anyway, very interesting. Well, that's the 917, and I think, well, I will show you this. This is like super fussy. The combination of these side pods and these, I guess these blades to demark the back of the cockpit, oh my gosh, so fragile, always falling off, which is why this isn't really a great plaything, because this whole back, these back pieces all want to come off all the time. Anyway, that's the Porsche. Let's move on. Now, the 917 was the historic godfather, basically, of modern sports car racing. But this was the car I grew up watching, which was the 956, 962 here in the U.S., because World Sports Cars, which was Group C, also raced in the U.S., similar cars, similar format as IMSA, even back when I was a kid in the 80s. And this was one of my favorite cars. This is the Rothmans 956. Now, I dreamt about these cars for many, many years, and I just want to say, one of the first things you notice about these is that they don't have any problem using the original liveries. They don't have to get permission or anything like that to make these. This is a pretty good likeness. We'll get into it now. All right, here we are. This is the glorious 956, or possibly a 962. We don't really know what this model is, other than because of the Rothmans livery, we presumably it's a 956. You might be wondering what the difference is. Well, without getting too much into Porsche history, let's just say that the predecessor to it, the 917, and there was a car in between, but we don't talk about that. The 917, which had a similar look to it, which we just talked about, had a flat 12 in it. This has a flat 6 in it, but it is turbocharged. The difference between a 956 and a 962 primarily is that the 956 has a shorter distance between the axle and the driver and wasn't considered to be as safe. So they were rebuilt and revised into a longer version, the 962, because of regulations in the United States with IMSA. And pretty much over time, they all became 962s. There are a lot of these. This particular representation of one is from the early, or I should say the mid-80s. So it's about 15 years after the 917 we looked at. And this would also have run at Le Mans and won. This particular one, like the 917, comes with, you can get stickers to do the driver, and it comes with wheel choices, or I should say hubcap choices. Now, I haven't punched out the center caps of these, but you get the general idea. I will say that this is a pretty chunky model overall. While it does capture the look of the 956 and the 962, it's definitely got a heftiness to it. This actually would be very playable. It's quite sturdy. You can see it's very heavily built underneath, and it has a nice under tray with the taillights there. And this is very playable. Whereas the 917 was kind of fragile, this you can bounce around. Nothing's going to fall off it. It's really a great model. Now, you may have heard something rattling in there. Oh, I should point out that these intakes here and this ductwork is all stickers. And I do think it's nice how the stickers, never mind the fuzzies, the stickers nicely integrate from one piece to the other. I don't know if you can see that. These are two separate pieces, two separate stickers. So very clever how they did that. Probably the hardest part about building this is this sticker on the back. And you can see mine's very slightly not in the center, but what you going to do? So they're rattling around in there. Well, let's take a look inside the cockpit. There's the other hubcap option. And there's the interior, or such as it is. I mean, these are not interior models, really. And as I recall, this is the one I had to cut out with my razor blade so that I could get the proper window effect. So if you look really, really closely, you might be able to see where my knife was not perfect, my knife work, but I tried to get that pretty close. Anyway, so that's how that would go. Now, this is not how the doors open on the real car. They swing up and outward. This is just because of the way the Lego piece is. Now, What I do want to show you that I think is kind of cool about this, there's not really a lot to this one as far as building techniques go that I want to highlight. I mean, like literally, if I pull this off, underneath here it's just solid. It's just solid bricks. This thing is noticeably heavier. It's just solid. It's solid bricks. I keep calling them Lego, but you know what I mean. But what I do think is kind of cool is the way it went together. One of the things I noted was you can pop off this whole nose, kind of like that. This is actually just a panel piece stuck on end and in there. And then you can see how this assembly is actually oriented the other way. I thought that was pretty clever. Yeah, I am aware that I put these stickers on. These lower sponsors they should be the other way around, but I will go back and fix that someday. Since I do have 2 sticker sheets with all these, that's possible. But if you take that off and you pop off the fenders, the front fenders like that, this actually is what they look like when they're in the pits or when they're having the nose replaced. They actually look basically like this, or after a crash. Like I've watched a lot of races and I've seen this look on a 962, 956 many times. So I just kind of thought that was kind of funny how you could do that. But again, it just goes together. It's pretty chunky, this model, and it's quite sturdy. So if you were looking for one to get to train up a young race fan, this would be an excellent choice because it is just meant to be played with. It's hard to put it together when I'm got this phone on the way, but anyway, so that's that one. Now, one of the big rivals to the 956s and the 962 later were the Jaguars. These cars raced against them and actually beat them at Le Mans, and that was a huge deal. They had a couple different liveries over the years. In the U.S., they were sponsored by Castrol, so they were green and red, and in Europe they were sponsored by Silk Cut, which I believe is shaving gear. Anyway, really interesting cars at the time. They were very different from the Porsches, which were 6 cylinders. These were 12 cylinders, but spectacular on the track. They actually look so different because they have those spats over the rear wheels. And this is a pretty good likeness. I've been showing you these comparison pictures so you can kind of see what the real cars look like versus the ones that we're going to talk about. And this is probably one of the better ones of these off-brand models. So going in chronological order, this is about 5 years after the 956, 962s when this debuted. Those were about 10 to 15 years after the 917s really got going. But when this showed up, it was a major competitor for the 956, 962s because Porsche had gone from a flat 12 to the turbocharged 6-cylinder, flat 6, and the Jaguar came in with a naturally aspirated V12. And it was sort of like, it would have been fascinating to see one of these against a 917 if they developed it in time, but they didn't. This particular car is number 2, Silk Cut Jaguar. It is the one that won Le Mans, at least that's what it's representing in 1988. When this won, it was the first time that Porsche had not won Le Mans since 1980. Porsche had this huge streak going, and Jaguar came and interrupted it. Now, like the other ones, this one is got a lot of really clever building techniques. I want you to see how the rear axle is narrower. Now, in the real cars, they're a lot closer than that, but I think they are slightly narrower on the real ones too. And that's because of these spats or panels here, whatever you want to call them. I believe the traditional term is spats, but maybe that's debatable. That covers the rear wheels for aerodynamic purposes. This one's pretty chunky also. This is very playable if you're looking for one that's like has some playability to it. And it has the clever addition of the mirrors. This is the first of these cars that we've looked at now that actually has mirrors on it. And these are pretty sturdy. They're really in there because it's a, no, I said it was sturdy and then I just broke it. These mirrors are basically little studs that go all the way down inside the structure of the car. The only difficulty building this one was that the circle bits at the top were not cut out of the sticker, but the windows were, so that was nice. And you can see how well that goes together when the windows are cut at the factory and not with just me doing it with a razor blade. And as far as the interior, not a whole lot to see there really. It's just a seat. A minifig will fit in there. None of these came with minifigs, but this has stickers for it, just like the other ones did. Construction-wise, it's very similar to the 56 was. The whole front end comes off in case you wanted to crash into a wall somewhere. And the really cool thing at the back that is worth noting, and this is just a really cool car, is, well, first of all, if you wanted to get more downforce, or you pick the way it would be on a road course, because this spoiler is very low, like it would be at Le Mans, but at other tracks this would be higher up for downforce, you could just add a spacer in here and raise that up. Do you see these here? That's actually what the exhaust pipes do look like on the real car. You can look it up on the internet. And as far as what part is it, well, if you take that assembly off and clipped in there, it's really hard for me to get my fingers around it. There you go. It's a pistol. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I thought that was neat. The other sort of hidden feature here, and again, underneath these panels is just solid brick, so I'm not going to take them off. But what I did think was cool is how the stickers use, or this model uses, the yellow on the side is done with a piece, and then the stripe continues with a sticker. So you still get that look of that stripe coming all along, but it's sometimes pieces, sometimes sticker. I thought it was pretty clever. But here's the bit that I really liked about this one, if I can get it off. You pull off the engine cover, well, aside from the pistols were kind of cool. And this one actually has an engine in there, and it has 12, these are binocular pieces, and there's your 12 cylinder. You know, they're kind of a flat 12, I guess, or but it's a V12 in real life, and these would just be, I guess, your carbs or whatever on top. But that's pretty cool. So if you wanted to have this show up in the pits and be doing your tire changes, working on the engine, or switching out the drivers, or you had to replace the nose because somebody had gotten into a shunt, as the commentators like to say. They had a shunt. Oh, this is also worth noting. These pieces underneath that there are these kind of gold brick pieces normally. I thought that was kind of clever. But yeah, you can really do a lot with this one, and yet it's also sturdy. If you do need to change your rear tire on your pit stop, of course you'd have to pull off the spat on that side, and there's access to your tire to do your tire change. So yeah, all in all, this is probably, I don't know if I want to say it's my favorite, because I really like all of these, but it just has a lot of cool stuff. It just really does. Anyway, so there you go. That's the Jaguar. All right, currently in the WEC, and as we just saw at Daytona this past weekend, one of the dominant cars racing right now is the Porsche 963. You notice the other one was a 962. That before the Jaguar that we talked about, the 956, 962. This is the 963. This is the latest and greatest. It's a hybrid, and it is wicked fast and very reliable. This is the European livery that runs here. They don't run this in the U.S. Next year, this year, Cadillac will be running a version of this livery on their Cadillacs overseas. So you can watch Cadillacs race the best of Europe in Europe, which is going to be spectacular. It's very similar to this. Now, this particular car, there is a Lego version of this, and it is quite different as to how it's put together. I wish I had one here so that I could show you the differences between the two, but there's only one in the family, and it's not here. It's in Maryland. So we'll talk about what this one looks like, and you can find a lot more details about the Lego one on all of the other Lego channels, because everybody reviews Legos. I just don't see a lot of people doing much with these, and these are pretty darn good, and they're worth talking about. All right, now we are into what you can go out and find on TV right now. This is the mighty Porsche 963. This is probably one of the more technologically advanced cars that has appeared on racetracks in recent years. And it made its debut actually 2 years ago at the 24-hour Daytona. And this is raced in Europe, and it's raced in the US. There is a Lego set, an official Lego set, that uses the Penske Racing colors of the factory racing team. I don't remember the number of it, but it's white and red and black primarily, but it's white and red on top. It is a superb Lego model, no doubt about it. The nose on that one is probably better, but this one has a really clever feature on the back that I think is better than what Lego does. So this is representing one of the teams, the Yoda team, that races in WEC in Europe. Notably for 2025, this gold Hertz livery appears on the Cadillacs in Europe. I will point out that this, so you'll notice a difference in color. Well, I'll show you while it's all put together, where the stickers are versus where the bricks are. And here actually, if you look on this brick, see how there's this lighter dot? That's how you know that they're not Lego. Of course, they don't say Lego on the studs, but they have the mold line is on there. So just something worth noting. This one did come with the studs cut out for the glass, I guess. Anyway, but you'll notice that it's got different colors where the stickers are versus the bricks. That's not the only different color on here. If you look really closely and in the right light, I'm not see if I can find an example. No, I don't know that I can. But all of these are not the same color either. There's probably about, I don't know, 3 or 4 different shades of gold on this. So it's kind of interesting. Now this is a sturdy, this is very playable, very sturdy car. And I think it's a pretty good representation of the real car. It's very close to the Lego set. It still has those air channels that go through the bodywork here, just like the real car has, just like the Lego version has. I think that the Lego one has a better depiction of the exhaust in the back, as I recall, whereas here it's just stickers. Kind of underwhelming, really. But anyway, that's that. You can see from the underside, this is a chonky structure. But what I want to, and I will say that the Lego, here's another example. Like if you look at these tires, I don't know if you can see that, like the mold marks on them are pretty, I don't know. I guess you could say that this car spun out somewhere, so it's got some flat spots on the tires maybe. That's what we're depicting. The Lego wheels and rims are better and they're bigger. I did try to swap them and they don't fit. So there's that. In fact, none of these seem to have the same. As far as the nose goes, it's very similar to the Porsche, to the Lego set. But what's really cool about this one, where it's better, is it doesn't have the red pieces here on the top, which is where the Lego one depicts the taillights. But it does have kind of this cool effect of that thin LED band that the real car has as its taillight. This one does have. And the way it does it is pretty clever. So if I can get my display here, this is how it goes together. So it uses a whole bunch of these rounded 1x1s, and it's a rubber band. That's all that is a rubber band. Really clever how that's done, and the effect of it wrapping around is very close to what the real car looks like. As the interior goes, this is the first of the modern ones we'll look at. So it doesn't have a steering wheel. It has a yoke, which is kind of how it's done, and it's got a sticker on it and all that. Not really an interior there to speak of. I believe the Lego set does have an interior. This comes off as, just kind of slides over that center vein there, and that's basically it. There's not a whole lot to this one. So while the effect is pretty good as far as looking like the real car, and it's sturdy, and it's easy to build, the stickers are extremely tedious trying to get, because these are actually 2 separate stickers, and then those are separate stickers, and then those are separate. So there's like a lot of stickers. But anyway, pretty good set overall. And I would like to get this side by side with the Lego one, but I didn't manage to do that, so sorry. I almost forgot. Here I took off that so you can see the yoke better. But this does have an exhaust pipe system in it. The real car that this is based on does not have a 6-cylinder or a 12-cylinder like the prior racing Porsches has. This actually has a V8 in it. So I was wrong. I said that it didn't have a good exhaust system. It does. It just doesn't show up very well. But this is a hybrid V8. See, once I put that together, you kind of don't, you really can't see it. So it's like it's there when you build it, but then it's all covered up. And last but not least, the Ferrari. This won Le Mans this year, beat out everybody, and I've got one here. This is the one we're going to talk about as our finale. Here's the Ferrari. I apologize right now that the reds don't match with my tablecloth. One thing to note, you see all the logos, you see the brand names and everything on here. It's one of the interesting things about getting these kits from AliExpress is, of course, they're coming from China, so they're not overly worried about copyrights or trademarks. And so you do get an awful lot of ornamentation you wouldn't otherwise get because they're not paying any licensing fees. So, what are you going to do? So this is the 499P. This also debuted 2 years ago, same time, around the same time as the 963 Porsche did. Difference is this won Le Mans on its first try. And then the next year, in 2024, it won Le Mans again. Spectacular race car, and this particular kit compared to the 963, which, like I said, is very kind of chunky and simplistic in the way it goes together, this is intricate. It's a really great model. I don't remember what the part count is between the two, but this definitely feels like it's got a lot more of attention to detail and a lot more stuff going on, even though it doesn't have the cool taillight that the Porsche has. So it's pretty sturdy, really good, very playable, just like the Porsche is, with one exception. These rear view mirrors, while they look very, dead on to the way they would look on the real car, they are just stuck into a little indentation there, and they come off super easy, like that. That's literally how easy they come. So I'm just going to take them off because I'm going to knock them off otherwise. So let's talk about this. It's got that nice chunky bottom to it. This one's finished, whereas the 963 was not finished along the bottom. But the reason for that is so that they can get this extra detail here. There's that mold line again, or that sprue dot there to let you know that these aren't Lego, because Lego don't really have that. And of course the studs don't say that either. There you actually can see on this one, see how it has it as well? But anyway, so this is kind of a cool detail. It really matches the original car having that gap there. So that's why they finished that off. While we're looking around the bottom, look at the front spoiler here, the front air dam. Now what's really probably hard for you to see, well, there you go. See the daylight through there? Can you see that? It actually goes, you actually could channel air through this, through the nose of this car. Like it goes all the way through. There, see my finger? I think that's really cool. You're not getting that effect probably as well on video as you do when you're looking at the actual model, but that's really, really kind of a cool detail. And then when we go around to the back, it's got that big rear diffuser. This Ferrari kit is all about those angular ground effects to it. It's really, really interesting that way. And in person, it just looks so aggressive. So I'm going to pull off this top bit, and you can see how that's put together. And then there we can look in. It's got a little Italian flag there. And there you can see that air channel kind of coming through there, just like on the real car. Really interesting. Now this one, just like the other ones, these are stickers that are supposed to depict holes in the bodywork. If you look at the real race cars, you see the tires like through the bodywork on there. And I think on the Porsche, I didn't mention it. I'll bring it back in here for a second. See this? On the real Porsche, you would see tires through there. And you would on the front as well, but I don't know why they didn't do it there. I think the Lego one, the Lego kit does show that. But that's what that, if you find a picture of these in real life or go to a race, go to Watkins Glen. Well, actually, no, the Ferrari's not at Watkins Glen, I'm afraid. But go to a race, and you'll see that these in the real cars are cutouts for, and you can see the wheels right through there. Let's look at the cockpit before I get too carried away here. This being a newer race car, of course, it has that same yoke in there, just like the other one did. Not really much of a seat, but you can put a minifig down in there and it'll fit. Interesting detail here is the doors that are on backward. Now they don't open, but they do give you, well, a way of attaching the windshield, and they give you a kind of a handle effect. Now I'll point out this one also, it was cut at the factory, so you just pull out that bit before you attach the sticker, which is cool. It is hard to get it on perfectly straight or perfectly flat, as you can tell, because you attach it on the top and then sort of like wrap it around the side. And by the time you get to the bottom there, it doesn't really want to go. It will be interesting to see how these stickers hold up over time. There's an era when Lego stickers were really, really bad and peeled and flaked off like crazy. And what makes this so much of the styling on this Ferrari look like a Ferrari are the stickers. I mean, stickers are a huge component here. You know, none of this yellow is done with brick. Well, I guess there's a little brick in there to catch that right at the bottom there. If we pull off what would be the engine, okay, you can see that there are two little bricks there to sort of continue that stripe. But overall, all of the styling on this car, as far as the markings go, are done with stickers. So if these stickers start failing, then this is going to cease being a Ferrari and it's just going to become something else. And then there's some mirrors. So interestingly, when I ordered this, there's a couple different liveries being how the cars are marked, in case you don't know the term. And the one I thought I was getting is the one that has the yellow mirrors and the yellow rear spoiler, because I thought that would be a really cool contrast, and it looks really good because it looks really good with the yellow stripe. And then this one came up, and I was building it. And I think it's red back here on the one with the yellow spoiler. I think this part's red. I forget. But as I'm putting the car together, it's asking for pieces that I can't find, and then I realized, oh no, they're actually depicting the color scheme, the livery, on a different car than the one that's in the directions. So they're fortunately close enough that I could figure it out, but that kind of was kind of amusing. I do love that little Italian flag under there, though. Oh, I forgot to mention that, like the 963, the Ferrari in real life has a turbocharged V6 in it, and it's a hybrid. You would think a Ferrari would be a V12, if anything, but it's not. And that's one of the things that's interesting about the race series is you get naturally aspirated cars, V8s, V12s, mixed in with these twin-turbo V6s and hybrids. So there's a lot going on. There will be a naturally aspirated V12 next year, and it's going to be an Aston Martin. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little tour through my Lego race car garage, even though, as we discussed, they're not Lego. But gosh, they're pretty cool, and I hope that you are going to be watching IMSA and finding yourself some interesting things to build regardless of who makes them.